Okay, let's go from Poway, and I want to talk a little bit about San Marcos. And this story caught my attention about this bike park coming to San Marcos. And I've done a lot of commentary on biking in San Diego, and part of this is because back when I was a kid, I used to race BMX bikes, and so biking has been a part of my personal DNA back in my personal history. And plus, my daughter is a avid biker, triathlete. And so we're always talking about biking here at the Riley household. But it's cool. This is a cool project. And I wanted just to briefly highlight it here in the city of San Marcos. And they're putting in this bike park. And it's like this dirt park with jumps and berms. And it's like this big BMX racetrack, but it's just open to the public and anyone can use it. And it's going to be available for people of all skill levels. And it's right there at Bradley Park, right there in the center of San Marcos. And it's going to be an 8-acre bike park. It's going to include a pump track, a perimeter trail, and jump lines for beginners, intermediate, and advanced skill levels. So, what's a pump track? A pump track is, you may have seen these at some parks. It's like a paved little track with, and sometimes you'll see these as dirt, but more often they're paved. And they've got bank turns and little jumps, and you can actually ride a bike on that and not have to pedal barely at all. And that's why they call it a pump track, is you use your personal momentum on the bike to move around the track. And it's kind of cool. But they're also putting on in a lot of these other big jumps. And there's a few other parks here in San Diego that are like this that are really cool. San Diego's Pacific Highlands Ranch Community Park, Greg Cox Park in Chula Vista, the Sweetwater Bike Park in Bonita. That's the one I had heard about. And they have similar amenities there, but there's nothing like this in North County. And I thought this was really cool. Now, part of this came from citizens in San Marcos that were upset about some kind of, how should I say, some people going rogue, building their own in some vacant lots. So the local clamor for a bike park hit a flashpoint in 2019 when San Marcos community members protested the city's removal of a bike jump lane constructed by local youth on protected open space. At a subsequent public meeting with over 110 attendees, residents communicated the need for a local bike park. So this, for me, is like a flashback to my days as a kid riding my BMX bike, and we would do the same thing. We would find these vacant lots and we would build jumps on them. And I remember there was one right there in Millbrae. We used to call it the hump, which was like this jump on a hump. And it was what really got me going in my interest in biking. And then I later went into BMX racing and a lot of other stuff. And it was really cool because it was a place for bikers to kind of connect. And there's a community of bikers, and built a lot of new friendships. And now this park is going in. And I think this is a great project for the city of San Marcos. Now, they've raised $236,000 in grants from the Friends of San Marcos Parks, the San Diego County Board of Supervisors, Neighborhood Reinvestment Grant, State Parks and Recreation Proposition 68 per capita program. And it's gotten a lot of support from the San Diego Mountain Biking Association. The lot's been vacant for decades and decades, and all they're doing is bringing in soil and building it up. So what do you think of this? Now, on some of my other podcasts, I've been critical of other local city governments kind of getting outside their lane, right? Like in the city of Escondido, for example, they've got a real fiscal crisis. They've got a structural deficit because they're spending too much money and they're not bringing enough in. Well, it's important, I think, for city government to be focused on the fundamentals. And number one, the priority of any local city government, in my opinion, is public safety. That's police and fire, and in some cases, ambulance services, depending on whether that's part of the fire department or not. And then usually the second priority of city government is water, kind of public works. So it's like water and sewage and roads and that sort of thing. And then kind of a subset of that are parks. And this is basically another park in the city of San Marcos. And the great thing about this is it's not like a park where you've got to build all of these, it's not like a major landscaping project, and they're just going to bring in dirt. They're going to obviously have to bring in some bulldozing equipment to shape the dirt. But I'll bet you a lot of this is going to be maintained by the riders themselves. The city, of course, is going to help out. But this doesn't require lots of concrete and buildings and all kinds of other infrastructure. This should be a relatively simple, low cost project. They're already getting money from a lot of other grants. They're already taking advantage of state programs where the money's on the table. Now, we can debate whether or not this should be funded in the first place. But as taxpayers, if we have a way to kind of get some of our money back and have it reinvested in our community, that's great. Now, this is going to be kind of like an open riding area. It's not going to be a place where they're going to have actual sanctioned races or anything like that, like at a BMX race. But there is talk about putting in more BMX tracks in San Diego County. There's already one in Kearney Mesa. There's another one out in Lakeside, and of course, there's the one down at the Olympic Training Center in the eastern part of Chula Vista. There has been talk of putting in a BMX racetrack in Escondido. There's been talk of putting one here in my hometown of Poway. I'd love to see it. I mean, again, I'm a big supporter of BMX racing, but here we're going to see more of this kind of thing now in San Marcos. So that photo on the screen, I think, is from the Sweetwater Park. But it looks like it's going to be a ton of fun. And I've got a BMX 20-incher and a 24-incher. I'll probably bring it out there and check it out. So tell me what you think in the comments on the live stream in the Facebook or YouTube. You can drop your comment or question, and we can talk a little bit more about the bike park that's coming to San Marcos. Okay, let's move on. And